Some days it feels like the NFL rolls out of bed and says, "All right, let's put the 49ers faithful through it." Today is absolutely one of those days. We've got a roster call that doesn't look loud, but it can quietly change how this offense breathes. We've got a defensive name being floated that might steady the pass rush or turn into another injury roll of the dice. We've got a receiver who's become a lunch pail favorite in this fan base, and now there's a price attached to that. And we've got a backup quarterback who suddenly isn't just a backup anymore. He's an asset. And here's what makes it uncomfortable. All of it is happening at the same time, with the cap calendar staring everybody down. You're not going to believe what we've got today. So get comfortable, tap that like button, and let's roll. I'll ask you up front, are you playing it safe right now, or are you swinging for control? Because this starts with the kind of decision that feels normal until you realize it kicks off a whole chain reaction. San Francisco actually has cap space to work with, but there's still a giant hole on the roster. This offense doesn't have that truly explosive wide receiver who makes defenses change the way they call a game. When that's missing, every contract discussion gets measured the same way. Does this move help you find that piece? Or are you just keeping things familiar while the problem stays the problem? That's why Kendrick Bourne keeps coming up. The projection out there is roughly $6 million a year in free agency. On paper, that feels manageable, right up until you remember how many other checks get written in March. But if you're looking at what he actually gave you in 2025, it was pure, practical value. 551 receiving yards, 37 catches on 53 targets, good efficiency, and he showed up in moments where the offense simply needed somebody to be dependable. He wasn't living off highlight reels. He was giving you an honest down, over and over. And honestly, he gave you more than DeMarcus Robinson, who arrived on a 2-year deal and didn't bring the same steady impact. Bourne wasn't that far off Juwan Jennings either, which is where the conversation starts to sting, because Jennings is also headed toward free agency. And it doesn't really feel like Jennings is lining up to take a team-friendly deal after he went looking for a bigger payday not that long ago. On top of that, there are injury questions, and you can see why the front office might look at this differently than the fan base does. Bourne, meanwhile, has shown he can hold up physically across 2 separate stints in San Francisco. Around here, durability isn't a nice bonus, it's worth real money. But there's one condition that changes the entire tone of the Bourne debate, and it's Mac Jones. Yeah, the backup quarterback. Jones and Bourne built real chemistry back in New England, and you saw that connection translate to red and gold, especially in that memorable win over the Rams, when those two helped keep the season from sliding off the table. And with how this team lives one awkward hit away from chaos, having a true plan B at quarterback isn't some luxury item. It's the seatbelt. If Jones is staying, paying Bourne a reasonable number looks like a smart investment, not a favor. Quick pause. Let that sink in. Now, while we're still talking offense and receivers, the tone flips the second you look at the defense, because that side of the ball isn't debating comfort at all. It's debating survival. The 49ers got crushed by injuries in 2025, and it wasn't just a couple guys banged up. Both Week 1 starters at edge rusher went down. Nick Bosu tears his right ACL in Week 3. Then first-round rookie Michael Williams suffers the same thing in Week 9. That's not bad luck. That's a crisis. And the production backed it up. Dead last in sacks with 20. Dead last in pressure rate at 24.7%. 29th in pass rush win rate. Quarterbacks were way too comfortable, and you could feel it on every 3rd and long where the rush just didn't arrive. So when the trade deadline rolled around and the Jets were running a fire sale, San Francisco picked up the phone. They inquired about Jermaine Johnson II. It didn't happen because New York wanted a 2nd-round pick back and the 49ers weren't going to pay that. Nothing came of it. But the idea is being floated again now, and the situation isn't the same. The Jets are still in a rough spot, and the logic is pretty straightforward. If 2026 is trending toward another lost year, why not move a valuable piece for picks? Johnson is set to play 2026 on the 5th-year option of his rookie deal, so it would make sense for New York to cash out and stockpile draft capital. But the price is everything, and the risk is not small. Johnson only had 3 sacks last season. He missed most of 2024 with a torn Achilles, and every 49ers fan hears that and immediately tenses up. San Francisco does not need more injury math, and even if a third-rounder could get it done this time, that's still a serious chip to push in for a possible one-year rental at about $13.5 million. Now, if you could guarantee the 2023 version of Jermaine Johnson, the Pro Bowl season with 7.5 sacks, 56 pressures, and even that pick 6, then you understand why people want to talk themselves into it. In this system, you'd trust the 49ers to get more out of him than the Jets did, even with Robert Saleh no longer in the building. But you can't guarantee that, and that's why this might be one of those ideas that sounds perfect, right up until you walk away. And while we're grinding through that, there's an even more emotional decision sitting on the offensive side, because it involves a guy who became a symbol for a lot of people. Juwan Jennings is arguably the most notable name among the 28 49ers players scheduled to hit free agency, and his 2025 season was legitimately productive. 55 catches, 643 yards, 9 touchdowns. He scored in 7 of the final 9 regular season games. After fighting through injuries early, he turned into a real weapon, especially in the red zone. Nobody's questioning what Jennings gave you. He plays tough. He blocks. He welcomes contact. He feels like a locker room guy. But Brian Baldinger said something on Bay Area radio that cuts right to the core of the dilemma. Once Brock Purdy got paid, the roster-building math changes. That's the league. Baldinger's point was pretty simple. Jennings contributes, no doubt, but he's not a number 1. You can even argue whether he's a true number 2. So then you're stuck with the hard question. Do you pay him? Or do you go find a big-bodied receiver in the draft or through free agency and avoid spending that kind of money? And that's where the fan base splits cleanly. Some folks say, pay him, he earned it. Others say, we love what you did in 2025, but you can't build this roster off feelings. Once you pay the quarterback, other guys have to go. That's not disrespect. That's the cap. Baldinger even pointed out the 49ers are already paying core players, and at this point it becomes a finance question. How many big checks can you write before you start pulling strength out of the rest of the roster? I'm genuinely asking. Which brings us to the quietest piece on the board today, and it might be the most valuable when it comes to leverage. Mac Jones. The 49ers didn't plan for him to become this kind of storyline, but when a season goes sideways, plans don't matter. Jones stepped in for an injured Purdy and did more than get by. Across 8 starts, he went 5-3, completed 69.6% of his passes, and threw 13 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. He didn't just keep the engine running, he stabilized the whole operation. And now it matters even more because he's under contract through 2026 on an affordable 2-year, $7 million deal. That's the kind of quarterback contract other teams look at and say, okay, we can work with that. There shouldn't be a shortage of interest, and Albert Breer floated the Minnesota Vikings as a possible trade partner if San Francisco decides to move him. Minnesota's situation is messy. J.J. McCarthy's disappointment in his first full year as a starter is the backdrop, and they're trying to win now in a brutal NFC North. They've also already gone the reclamation project route, Sam Darnold in 2024, and it worked. Breer's angle was that Jones, coming from San Francisco the way Darnold did, makes a lot of sense for a team that may need to do it on a budget while squeezing a win-now roster. But now we hit the real tension. What's it going to cost? Tom Pelissero on NFL Network softly suggested it might take a second-round pick. And if you're a 49ers fan, you already know why that's complicated. You don't just ship out a legitimate plan B at quarterback when this franchise has lived through injury seasons like that. At the same time, turning a backup into premium draft capital is how you keep the pipeline healthy. So that's the crossroads. If Minnesota comes in with real value, the 49ers listen. If it's not the right offer, keeping Jones isn't a failure, it's protection. And it circles right back to Kendrick Bourne, because chemistry and continuity matter when your quarterback room gets tested. At the end of the day, this all connects. Bourne or not, taking a swing on a pass rusher with medical risk or walking away, letting Jennings hit the market, potentially flipping Mac Jones for meaningful value. None of it is isolated. It's a snapshot of a team that still believes in a championship window, but also knows one bad bet can hang around for years. So I'll put it back on you, Faithful. Are you prioritizing security right now, or are you pushing chips in to try to own the NFC? Drop your take in the comments. I want to hear exactly where you land on this. And if you like this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and we'll keep riding together.